All right, Excel histogram recording, take 2. I have sound this time. Cool. Hello, world. I have some data here. Hermiston house prices from last year in thousands. So that 52.9 is really 52,900, 104,000, 115,000, and so on. I'm going to sort the data first. Data sort. Sort has a header row and sort ascending. Sure. Did it do it? Yeah, we got a low of 52,000 and we got a high of 72,000. So a couple ways to make this happen. One way is highlight the data, go to Insert, Recommended Charts, and hopefully one of the charts it recommends is a frequency chart. It has a few others that are kind of meaningless. Yeah, so this line chart and the area chart don't work. They're meaningless. They're stupid. But this one is actually useful. So I'm going to insert it. And I have kind of limited options here. I can't really edit much except titles. So if you click on the chart and then Chart Tools Chart, you could go in and edit the chart title to something more descriptive. Hermiston home prices 2019 in thousands. Oops, and then OK. You can't, in this version of Excel 365, edit the group widths or the number of columns. In the desktop version, you can. So there's an edit menu and there's some more edit options up here in Excel on the desktop. I don't have Excel on my desktop, so I can't show you that. But if you do, play around. Other way, if you don't like the automatic one there, is to make a frequency table. So to make a frequency table, you got to know a bit about your data, like what's the min, what's the max, and about how many columns you want. And then you can start setting up your groups. I'll call them groups today, why not? And then calculate the frequencies. Now this frequency count depends on which version you have, but the groups is the same way. So you have to decide, how do you want to split this up? If I grouped by 50,000 and then 100,000, it's going to take quite a few groups to get up to the high of over 700,000. So I think that contains, my largest number. So I have like, 15 groups here? Yeah. So that's a lot of columns. Usually we don't make that many. That's on the upper edge. But you could. An alternative for groups, frequency, put those in the same spots. If you think that's too many, is to just make a different grouping. Like maybe you go every 100,000, 200,000, so on. Then you'll get up just beyond the max in 8 columns, 8 rows. So you get a couple different options there. And that's one too many there. To do the frequency count, where the computer goes and looks and says, okay, how many houses are up to 50,000, how many are above 50 but up to 100,000, and so on. In this version of Excel, you just go to that top cell, type equals, frequency, tab to complete it, and then highlight your data. The title it will ignore, comma, and then highlight your groups, bins, buckets, whatever you call them. Close parentheses, hit enter, and it will do the count. To double check you got the right count, it's always a good idea somewhere below there to do a sum on the numbers above. And so if I add up these numbers here, it says there's 49, which is what I remember having in my list. So it did it correctly. On older versions of Excel, or some desktop versions, what you have to do is highlight all the places you want a frequency count, +1, let go of the mouse, say I let go, start typing equals frequency, highlight the data, so a slightly different step in the beginning and there's a slightly different step at the end. So if the first way I did it doesn't work for you, try this method. Highlight your groups, close your parentheses, and then on the keyboard, Control-Shift-Enter together. So I hold Control, I hold Shift, and then I tap Enter, and then it should fill out the results. And that's because frequency is what's called an array function. Instead of spitting out a single number, it spits out an array or a list of numbers. New versions of Excel don't require the Control-Shift-Enter. Other versions do. So it depends on which version Excel you have. Then you could graph this. To graph it, you just highlight all relevant cells and then insert recommended charts. And hopefully it gives you one where it puts your groups on the bottom and your frequencies on the side. And then the next thing you would have to go in is give it a better title at the top, at the bottom, and on the side. So like a better title in this case would be something like at the top, Hermiston home prices 2019, down below home prices in thousands, and on the side, instead of frequency, you could type number of houses. And then that would be a graph that could go into like information about Hermiston brochure kind of thing. If you don't like your frequencies here or your groupings, the way the graph turned out, if somebody looks and said, hey, that's just doesn't look good, you have two choices. One would be to make a whole new version of it off to the side, or you can actually edit these numbers directly. So you could just delete those and start over and do something like 100, 200, and so on, and it should automatically fill out the remainder. So I only need to go up to 800 here to catch all of the numbers, and it will redraw the graph for you. You don't like that one? Make another one. Go by 80. All right, so I could go 80, and then 160, and then have it fill that. And it looks like I gotta go farther. And is there a best histogram? The answer is no. There are just many options. You just got to make one and go with it. And whether you use the quick histogram builder or you use the frequency table histogram builder here, which is more configurable, you go back and label the graph better once you decide you like the look of it. So give it a better title, axis titles, and you're good to go. Hope that was helpful. Take care. Do good math. Bye-bye.